Welcome back to the Baseball Blue Book Podcast, where we focus on the journey, not the destination. Brought to you by the Baseball Blue Book app. Are you in the book? And now, your host, Eric Wobanaw. Welcome back to the Baseball Blue Book Podcast. My name is Eric Wobanaw, the president of the Baseball Blue Book, and really excited to have Coach Brooks Repking with us at Crown College up in Minnesota, right outside of the great city of Minneapolis. How are you, Coach?
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, this is exciting. I like that I'm moving kind of to the Midwest. For those that are subscribers to the channel and those that are listening and watching, have known that I've kind of spent the last couple months in the state of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, that area, and I've been laughing because I keep saying I got to get to my neck of the woods, the Midwest, and so great to have you on. Great to get to know you and your program, and looking forward to our conversation today. Thanks for being on.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, it doesn't feel like baseball season's coming up here in Minnesota, but it's getting close, especially for college. But yeah, it's I think 10 degrees out right now, so yeah, it doesn't feel like baseball weather, but it is.
It's good to talk to coaches in those areas, because it's one of the things that we get questions about all the time, right? Is what it's like to run a program. I mean, you're on the same schedule as your counterparts in the southern states, and you've got to be a little bit more creative on what you do. So why don't we typically go through the baseball journey, but being that it's in the middle of January and you're in Minnesota, and that's one of those questions, why don't we go ahead and address that first, and then we'll talk more about you.
Perfect. Practicing inside. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead and tell us what that's like, and what do you do to kind of get over that and position yourselves, especially from a recruiting perspective. You know, obviously kids are asking those questions, but so what do you guys do, and how do you handle it?
Yeah, it's tough. It's definitely not ideal. I mean, we practice inside in a gym. Our gym is a little bit bigger than 2 basketball courts, so it's you can squeeze an infield in, but you can't. And I mean, you can't get the throw from the shortstop in the 6-hole in. You can just get kind of the normal ground ball in. And so, it's utilizing the space the best we possibly can. Our cages, we've got cages that drop down from the ceiling that are both tall enough, long enough to go live in. And so we probably go live, pitchers throwing to hitters more than like anybody in the country, just because we're in a gym. That's kind of how we have to do it. And so we bring out the portable mounds and the weirdo, portable batters boxes, and we go live, just about every single day. Pitchers throwing live, on a schedule, at least twice a week, basically. And we go live a ton, and we do a lot of competitions. We start up practice, a little after the first week of February. When you're inside in a 2 basketball court gym for 4 weeks before your first game, it can get pretty stale. And so we try to have the guys compete in, literally everything we do, where they're not walking into the gym and like, hey, we're doing the same dailies every single day, we're going to take some ground balls, and it's not going to be super ideal, and you're not getting realistic hops off a basketball wood floor. And so we try to make the guys compete in everything we do. We try to keep it fresh every single day, and just try to utilize the gym as best as possible and make the best of it.
You know what? I always say the guys that from the north are always they've got to be more creative. It makes them stronger,
Yeah.
and you don't have the benefits of just going out and being outside, and so it puts a little bit more hair on the chest, and it challenges people a little bit more. I mean, you're from the north, and you've had to figure it out, and you've made it to where you are. So I think some people might think of it as a challenge, but I think adversity brings a lot of character, and it brings people to focus on the things that they need to focus on more and be more important about those things. So I think that's a good thing.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you can get better in any where you are. I mean, we tell our guys all the time, you see guys down in the Dominican or somewhere, and they've got literally nothing,
Yep.
and they're some of the best baseball players in the world. So, we have a state of the art weight room. We have a gym. We've got Rhapsodios. So I mean, really, in the scheme of things, yeah, I'd love to be out on a field in February, like some of my coaching buddies at Texas. But you still can get better. You still can come, just as good of a baseball
I
player.
think that's absolutely great. So I think getting rid of all of those preconceived notions, I think that's a great place to start. And I appreciate you kind of giving that feedback. I was actually thinking the same thing, Brooks, about complaining about different things. Right, the people down in Dominica, and there's people down in the Latin America area. You hear all the time that
Yep.
they learned on how to hit when people threw bottle caps at them.
Yeah.
There's you figure it out if you like it and you love it and you want to get better. It doesn't matter the situation. You make it work, and I think that's fantastic. So Brooks, we knowing that you grew up in Wisconsin, now in Minnesota, let's start with your baseball journey. Start back with in the high school years, and you're a young guy, so probably not a lot of things have changed from the elite programs, travel teams, the things that you probably went through. Talk through your journey.
Yeah, so I'm from small town central Wisconsin originally, and like everybody, that's a college baseball coach. Baseball was my number one passion in life since I could pretty much walk, and grew up around some D3. In the Midwest, D3 baseball is huge, and
Yep.
so grew up around UW Stevens Point and UW Whitewater when they were kind of at the height of their powers, and was around those programs a lot. Went to all of their camps. Played some college baseball, went to Lakeland University down by Milwaukee area and played there for a few years, and ended up transferring to Crown at the very end of my college career, and got here, and we were probably the worst team in the country at the time, to be honest with you. And so I think my year here, we went 6-22, and it was honestly a miracle we won 6 games, to be honest with you. And so eventually graduated, knew for a long time, even getting into college coaching was kind of my vocation, where I wanted to go, and had my bags packed out. I was going to go coach at another school out east, and got the call to come back here as associate head coach, and love the school, love the location, as close as we are to Minneapolis, but we're still kind of removed from the big city, and decided to jump back on as associate head coach here. And we really tried to change everything about the program, from how we practiced to how we lifted to how we approached the classroom, and started to bring in a lot more talented players, and started to take some big steps. So before we were here as a coaching staff, we never made the conference tournament before, let alone the NCAA tournament. And so started to progress, made the conference tournament our first year as a coaching staff, and just continued to build, and it really culminated into last year. We went 30-15, went to the NCAA tournament, had probably the number 2 offense in the country, had a couple All-Americans. And so it's been a kind of crazy whirlwind going from 6-22 team to now we're preseason ranked going into the season, and had some other offers at the end of last year to go elsewhere. And our former head coach, the guy that I started coaching with, stepped away from coaching. He's got a few young kids, and wanted to spend more time at home with them. And so was lucky enough to get the opportunity to be head coach this spring, and couldn't really be more excited for it. And yeah, it really has been a kind of whirlwind.
Yeah.
Again, from being a guy that was a GA to now the head coach here. So incredibly excited for the future and kind of where our program's headed.
So Brooks, I mean, that's quite the turnaround. You hear bringing in different philosophies, different mindsets, different things that coaches can do, but to going from a 6-win team to a 30-win team and making to the World Series that quickly, what do you really credit that to? Was it things that you haven't had the opportunity to coach elsewhere? What were you using in some of the kind of the ideas that you wanted to bring and instill into the organization?
For sure. Yeah, I think first and foremost, I mean, it's at any college. I think when I started coaching with our former head coach, it was, hey, we just got to bring in more talent. Like, if you're a college coach, you can be the best college coach in the country. If you don't have the players or the talent, like, it's it's not going to
Right.
matter. And so that was our number one focus, talent as we possibly could. And then I think the other big thing, other than the obvious of just bringing in better baseball players, was just holding guys to a standard. Before we ever got here, like I said, we never made the conference tournament before. And so it's kind of like, yeah, Crown Baseball, we're in for another bad season. Yeah. To now we hold the guys to, we are going to be a championship level team, not just on the baseball field, but in the weight room, in the classroom, and really everything we do. And so I tell all the guys that we recruit, like, if you really like baseball, we are not the place for you. You got to really love baseball. It's got to be your
That's
passion.
good.
Because when you come play college baseball, you're getting your degree and then you're becoming the best baseball player humanly possible. And we're trying to win as many baseball games as humanly possible. And so I think just those two things where, the guys that we bring in now are obviously a lot more talented, but they are also, baseball is their passion. It's what they want to do. You got to bring in the right talent. And so I think really just holding the standard of, hey, we are a championship level team. We can do it at a small school like Brown. And holding guys to it and holding guys accountable.
That's great. And there's something to be said. It's mindset and holding people to standard is one thing. You can certainly do that from the top. Finding talent is not as easy as said than done, right? I mean, you kind of say that like, hey guys, it's pretty easy. Change the standard, change the mindset, and just go find good players. So what did you find worked for you? Because obviously everybody wants to find good talent. I mean, that is there, and there's a lot of good talent out there. What do you find is that kind of that ticket for you, and what's working for you? Small school. Like you said, there's a lot of baseball out there. What do you find works for Crown College and you and your coaching staff?
I mean, yeah, I wish it was as easy as just picking, all Americans out of a basket and bringing them in. I think for me in the recruiting thing, and we've been very fortunate with the recruiting side. You just have to know what to sell. When we were really bad and we were recruiting guys, it was, hey, you're going to change the program. You're going to be the new face of the program. Now it's a completely, help maintain us, help us get to another championship. So I think it's just knowing what you have to sell and where you're at. Every program, I sell different things than, our soccer teams or our football team, because we're all in different stages. And so we should all sell, really different things. And then I think, just not making it too complicated. Like these are 17, 18-year-old kids. Like they want cool things. They want to win. They want to play. If you kind of understand that and knowing what they want, you can kind of mold what you're selling to them, and obviously being honest, obviously giving them the full picture. But kids are pretty simple. They want to be on a winning team, they want to be in a winning culture, and they want to be around a coaching staff that thinks that will know what they're going through, will be there for them. And so recruiting is, I have found, is a lot more just work ethic. And at a small school like Crown, we call 5 studs. Maybe none of those guys are coming. We got to call 100 studs, and maybe we get 2 of them, and it's like, boom, our program just changed. And so you got to be able to turn over rocks that, other people aren't turning over. You got to be able to look in places that other people aren't looking. And recruiting is a lot more no's than it is yeses. As many great yeses as we've had, I can tell you horror stories of, hey, I thought this kid was for sure coming, and he was in the bag, and then called me up, hey, I'm going somewhere else. And so it's just work ethic and knowing what you're looking for, knowing what's going to fit your program, knowing what's going to fit you as a coach, what's going to fit me as a coach, and what I like to look for isn't maybe what everybody else is going to look for. And so knowing that, and then just realizing guys aren't that complex, 17, 18-year-old guys.
It's funny how it all works that way, right? I mean, you tell people to stop. When you get up there and you strike out, you got to get back into the box. You got to continue to focus.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing as recruiting, right? You can't just get up there and have 5 swings and expect to hit a home run or hit something, right? You got to get in there, and the more you're in the box, the more opportunities you get, the more opportunities you have to succeed. And I think it's the same thing. You bring in the same mentality that you have to create good people through baseball. You're just carrying it right into the coaching and what recruiting. Just because you're good doesn't mean you're going to get all the players either. And I think that's awesome. What looking for the stud, right? What does the stud mean to you? What are you specifically looking for from your coaching staff, Crown College, kind of the whole package of what you guys bring? We'll get into the what you guys bring in just a moment, but what are you looking for from that player's perspective? If I was a young kid, 17, 18 years old, I'm looking to play ball. What are they? Who are they?
Yeah, I think, obviously I'm a younger guy, and some of the guys on our team give me a hard time that I'm, more old school than new school with all the analytics and all the PBR and all the showcase numbers. To be honest with you, I don't really look at any of that stuff. Obviously, velo on the mound, like, yeah, if a kid's throwing 94,
Right.
like, yeah, that speaks for itself. But, for us, it's, again, we want winning high level baseball players. And so I've seen a lot of kids that can hit nukes in a PBR showcase on one round of BP, but they're not a winning baseball player. I don't want them on my team. And so, we really just we've been a hitting school. That's really what we've been known for. I think my first year here, we hit one home run as a team in 40 some games. Last year we hit 77 home runs
Wow.
in 40 some games. And so, really we love looking at guys swings from the side. That's really the number one thing that we look for, just the mechanics of the swing. And what they're doing. And really on the other side is, again, just good culture fits, right? Like I'd rather have a hard-nosed guy that is going to outwork every guy in the weight room than some guy that can, pull down, a high exit velo or, has got a great number in a PBR showcase or whatever it is. And those things are great, but it's not all about that. It's you got to figure out what's best for your program, what's going to fit you as a coach. And that looks different to everybody. I really couldn't care less.
What do you think the reason is behind that? You had mentioned hitting bombs at the PBR batting practice, and it's not the guy that we want here at the program. It kind of expand on that a little bit because today there's such a push. And no knock on any of these elite teams, the travel teams, the PBRs, the perfect. They're all great. There's a ton of baseball out there. But you bring up a really good point, and a lot of parents and kids are going, hey, do I need to go this week to this event? And then do I need to go to next week for that event? I got to get my stats in. I got to get my highlights. You brought up, I mean, that's an important part to bring up from a coach that's looking at these players. What's the difference? How do you determine the difference between that bomb hitter and a guy that you really want in your program?
Yeah, I think, again, for us, it's, I realize we recruit a lot different than a lot of places. But, I think I get very frustrated where, all these kids are going to all these travel showcases and they're going to all these different things and they're playing 50 tournaments throughout the summer,
Yeah.
but then they don't go to a college camp. We host a camp or UW Whitewater hosts a camp and they don't go to that camp. And it's like, well, that's probably the best way to get noticed. I couldn't tell you the last time I looked at a high schooler's stats when recruiting them. And I feel like we've had some of the best recruiting classes around in the last 2 or 3 years. And like none of that stuff, I don't care if you hit 400 in high school. I don't know. I really don't know who you're facing every single day. High school pitching is completely different than, college pitching. And so I think we're in this world of, hey, if I play in all these tournaments, if I, have these great, showcases and I have a couple clips from PBR that says I, hit 101 off of a tee, loading up like I'm a slow pitch softball player, like I'm going to be, Tennessee's going to sign me tomorrow. Well, it's like, well, it's not generally, the case. And so I think, it is a fine line. Obviously, some numbers do speak, like I said, velo on the mound. Like it's hard to turn down a kid that's, throwing 90 if he calls me up. Obviously, that's going to speak for itself. That's the first thing I'm going to see. But, it's also, you have to find, again, just kids that really fit your program, what you want to do, and their mechanics. I look at the mechanics of a pitcher. I looked at the mechanics of an infielder. I looked at the mechanics of an outfielder, the mechanics of a swing, far more than I can, just straight numbers from PBR or, hey, I hit, every kid tells me, hey, I went to this tournament and we were facing all kids from LSU and Arizona State and I hit 400. Well, maybe, but probably not. You're probably,
Right.
lying to yourself a little bit. And so, I think we're just in this world of everybody's got great numbers. We're all facing high D1 talent. We're all great. And then they get to the college level, even at the D3 level, and they're not nearly the best player on the team. And then that's where the transfer portal comes in, all those sort of things. So, Yeah, I think you just have to recruit the kids that are going to fit your program. And far often than not, I think the kids that are just consumed by travel ball, by PBR, by, hey, it's D1 or bust, or I'm going to go to a JUCO and then D1 or bust, is probably hurting baseball, in my opinion, more than helping.
Yeah, no, you bring up some really good points there. I mean, and there's a lot of peer pressure, right? I mean, you had just said there's so much talent out there. There's everybody's facing a lot of great talent, and I think what you brought
Yeah.
to the table here is really that there's so many different aspects of a player that coaches are looking for, especially at Crown College. I mean, when you're looking at, you talked about mechanics, you talked about kind of just the desire to play and being kind of those guys that are in the weight rooms and they're ready to work hard. What are some other things that some of these players, the high school players, can do that in your opinion would do volumes, speak volumes to you and other coaches like you to kind of stand apart, set themselves up for success, coming in and looking at a place to play in the collegiate level?
Yeah, I would say one is just work ethic throughout high school. I think again we're in such a day and age like, hey, I got to be started being recruited as a sophomore, or like I'm not going to be able to make it to college baseball, which really isn't the case. And again, you get these kids and these parents that, hey, I got to play 50 tournaments this summer to be noticed.
Right.
Well, my cell phone is on our website, and I couldn't tell you how many kids reach out to me, just text me off of my cell phone number on the website. Very few. Like my email's on the website. You can email me your video, and I see that. And so if you're really good enough, you can reach out to college coaches, and you're going to be found. And so you don't have to play. And travel ball is great for baseball in a lot of ways. Like it is more kids playing baseball.
Yep.
Great. But it's also, you can email every college coach in the country basically.
Yep.
Like I can probably email Tony Vitello today if I wanted to. Said, hey, here's my video. Take a look. And if I'm good enough to play there, he'll probably reach back out. And so, I think we sometimes get lost in the, hey, I got to do all these different things to be recruited, when it's like all these schools have camps.
Yep.
If you go to a camp and you're really showing out and you're taking some great rounds of batting practice, you don't think LSU's third baseman is going to say to one of the coaches, hey, you guys got to look at this kid.
Right.
Or if you email, me, and you've got a great swing, or you've got you feel unbelievable shortstop, I'm going to reach back out to you. And so I think, kids just lose this sight of like, hey, I can't reach out to coaches. Like coaches have to find me. Like you can find us too. It's a two-way street. And so as many kids as I want to find, if a kid falls in my lap, I mean, even better.
I think that's really good. You talked about the college camps, and I think that's really important as well, because there's no better way to really, on both sides, right? For the player to get a feel for the program, but also for the coaches to get a feel for who this player is in an atmosphere that is just a little bit different than kind of high-end, high-stakes game. We tend to perform differently in different circumstances, and I think that's really an interesting point. Does that kind of lend to where you're looking for players? I mean, do you tend to, D3, usually academic focused, and it's typically more localized from a recruiting perspective. Is that the same for Crown College, or are you really kind of everywhere? It doesn't matter, and we'll take kids no matter where they are, and we're excited to have them submit their information.
Yeah, so I mean, we're on one side. So obviously the academic side, you have to have, you never see a kid that's got a 2.2 high school GPA and then he comes to college and he's got a 3.2,
right?
College GPA. That's just not.
It's usually the other way, right?
So, yeah. And so being a high academic school like Crown, you have to have the high academics. Like you just do. And that just shows work ethic and, what you're going to do just based off the field. Otherwise, with the location, when I first started as recruiting coordinator here, there's a lot of D3 schools in Wisconsin and Minnesota. I'd call a good high school player in Minnesota and say, hey, I'm from Crown, and the kid would basically hang up on me. And so we had to recruit from every corner of the country. And so I think we've got more guys from Texas than we do Minnesota. We've got I think I've had a guy from every state other than Hawaii and Maine, and maybe one other, maybe Rhode Island. And we've got a guy from Australia right now who's our starting left fielder. And so,
Awesome.
really, we'll do, we'll find a kid. I don't care if he's from, wherever. If he's got the talent and he's gonna, do the right things here, we want him here. Obviously, it creates some other problems with homesickness and all those different things.
Right.
But yeah, we've been very well versed in it, and just recruiting in general. There's so many kids. I mean, there's a lot of talent in the Midwest, in Minnesota. But there's so many kids that are behind the University of Texas's eventual starting shortstop, and so that kid never plays varsity baseball, but he's still a stud baseball player in a lot of different ways, just because he didn't put up the varsity stats. Well, if he can help me win, of course I want you. And so I think sometimes some kids get lost in the shuffle that way too. Same with California, where there's just such high population of guys trying to play college baseball. A lot of coaches look, well, you barely played varsity, high school baseball. Well, why would I want you? Well, if your kid still got a good swing and he was behind somebody that was a legit dude, I don't care. I couldn't care less if you didn't get a hit in the high school varsity level. You can get a hit at, Crown College eventually.
That's awesome.
That's what I'm looking for.
I think that there's a bit of a humility to the way that you're presenting this, and I really appreciate that, because there is kind of that push, and you even alluded to it. D1 or bust, or JUCO and then D1. From a coach that's coming in D3. The funny thing is D3 coaches, D2 coaches, JUCO, NAIA coaches, we don't have that issue with thinking that we're not as good as these other programs. The problem is the kids have this false idea of what it is like out there. And I think your humility of coming in and going, you know what, we got just as good baseball as anywhere. And just because that you didn't make it to that D1 or you're behind two or three guys, you're going to have great baseball here at Crown. So talk about Crown College, and why is Crown College a place where somebody, no matter what talent they are at, needs to look at, and it's important for them to understand.
Yeah, so I transferred into Crown at the very end of my college career because they had the academic program I was looking for. They've got unbelievable academics here. We are just in the western suburbs of Minneapolis, and so I grew up in a town of like 1,000 in Wisconsin, and so I'm not a big city person at all. And so we kind of have the nice balance where, I don't deal with traffic at all at Crown. I don't deal with any of the big city stuff. I can get to Minneapolis in a half hour. And so transferred in, and when I graduated, I thought there was 0% chance I was going to stay at Crown to be a coach. And so I thought I was going out east and out to South Carolina to coach, and it was going to be warmer and it was going to be great. And got pulled back in just because I do love the school. The school is unbelievable, and so jumped back in as a coach on a team that was historically bad. Historically bad, because I did love the school and the location and all of those things. And now that we've become good, I think guys do really like it just because of our location. We're really the only college on the western suburbs of Minneapolis where, they can get the college experience, being as close as we are to the big city without being in the middle of nowhere. And now it's kind of a high level, baseball program where, we are competing against some of the best teams in the country. And so just kind of having that balance, I think a lot of our guys have really appreciated. And, when you're recruiting from Texas, we're 30 minutes away from, an international airport. That doesn't hurt either.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. What are some of the academic programs that Crown is known for?
Yeah, exercise science is probably the number one that we're known for. We've got an unbelievable exercise science program. We just hired a new advisor who worked in the Twins minor league system for a while, and he's been unbelievable with our guys. Both of our All-Americans are exercise science majors. I don't think that's just by circumstance. And then sports management is kind of the other one. I would say roughly 75% of our team is one of those two majors, and sports management kind of falls under the same umbrella as the business department. And so those programs have been unbelievable for us.
What is it? It's more like a suburb Is that what it is? Kind of the atmosphere of it. Talk about just campus life, the dorm life. What are these athletes that may be coming from other states? What can they expect life to be for freshmen and as they continue in their career at Crown College?
For sure. Yeah, so I think we're super fortunate just being how small we are. About 50% of our school is student athletes.
Oh,
And so it kind of feels like an athletic, training facility, just kind of nonstop here. And so we got the president of the school a little over a year and a half ago, and they've already spent close to $15 million renovating the school, building a brand new dorm. And so the student experience, the student athlete experience for sure hasn't been better ever. Brand new weight room, and so the student athlete experience has been heightened greatly. And before I got here, we didn't have a home field, and so for baseball, and so that made recruiting tough. When I was a senior here, we played our my senior day was at a rival school in our conference, so we hosted the home game on their field. So that made it tough, and
yeah.
school was vested in us. We pretty much have a brand new baseball facility, brand new baseball field, about 30 seconds off campus, and so been unbelievable. And then just the student body experience as well. When you've got such a high population as student athletes, the student support, when you go to basketball games, when you go to baseball games, I mean, it's shoulder to shoulder crowd just because they all support each other. It is kind of a unique environment where just about every kid in the class is a student athlete.
That's great. That's great. And now that you're kind of at the top of the game, how has that changed? Just from a recruiting, do you see yourself competing more with some of your rivals? Is kind of talk a little bit about that, because I think people don't understand the difference between when you're down and the recruiting versus when you're now at the top recruiting, and what that's like with your kind of your counterparts and the people that are in the same conference as you. And these kids are looking at the same schools. Talk about the kind of that change, and obviously you like it, but expand on that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it just kind of goes back to, when I said earlier of you just got to know what to sell,
Yeah.
and whatever stage you are in as a program, you got to know what to sell. And yeah, when we were bad and trying to recruit really good players here, it was you talk about a grind. It was a absolute grind. You had a lot more kids laughing at me on the phone saying, why would I come up and play? Certainly from like Texas, why am I going to come up and play for a 6-30 team? And so obviously with success, winning the conference championship, going to the NCAA tournament, it is kind of crazy how much turnaround recruiting has kind of just, I don't want to say easier because recruiting's never
Right.
easy, but it has made it a lot more feasible for us to compete with bigger schools, not only Minnesota, just in the Midwest, just because the Crown name is out there more. Before I got here, I was from Wisconsin, about 3 hours away. I never heard of Crown. There's people 15 minutes from here. When I first got here, it was like Crown College, like where's that? And Nebraska, and it's like, no, it's 15 minutes down the road. So, so I think just more people, having brand recognition, knowing who you are, recognizing what you're doing on the baseball field, certainly has made it easier to bring in, more local talent, obviously. And so that's been, really more of a breath of fresh air for us, where more people are calling us than we're calling them. And so anytime you have success, it's easy to get to kind of the top of the mountain, and then sustaining it is a whole nother thing and is a lot harder. And so just bringing in more local talent, which is what we plan on doing for the 23 class, hopefully helps us sustain the success as much as possible.
Well, talk about a lot of fun. I mean, I can't imagine there's not a few recruits that you talked to a few years ago that you'd love to maybe send them an anonymous email with the news,
Yeah.
the stats and everything.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. We usually, every game we play in Minnesota, there's a couple guys circled that are like, yeah, I remember bringing you out on a visit.
I think that's great. Brooks, I appreciate the opportunity. This is real excited to watch programs kind of turn around, young guys. Who are some of your mentors? Doing it as quick as you did certainly is not something that everybody should expect, but it's really neat to see and to watch somebody kind of young bringing this in. Who do you have to kind of as your mentors and who you would kind of shout out to say, hey, these guys were really instrumental in helping me get to where I'm at and kind of helping me develop who I am as a coach?
Yeah, I'd say number one is Pat Bloom. So Pat Bloom was the head coach at UW Stevens Point for forever. He's now at Wash U in St. Louis, and so I grew up around UW Stevens Point, about a half hour from them, and went to every camp, went to every home game as much as I possibly could, and really just from afar, kind of saw, hey, this is how you run a college baseball program. This is how things are in line. Knew guys that went and played for him, and so really tried to get as close to him as humanly possible. And now that I've gotten into coaching and just having more conversations with him, he's kind of really led me on, hey, it doesn't matter if you're a huge school like UW Stevens Point or a small school like Crown. Like, there's an avenue to get good and to bring in talent. And so I think really just what a true college coach looks like. He has helped me a ton. But I think just being around, really high level baseball as far as D3 baseball at UW Whitewater, and know the Coach Vunlich at Whitewater incredibly well. And I've learned a lot from afar from him as well. And so I think just being around guys that are doing it right, whatever avenue it is, and just consuming as much possible that you can. I'm a big Purdue basketball fan. Matt Painter at Purdue. I watch everything of him. Our guys give me a hard time. I've got TV in my office. Nick Saban highlights and speeches are usually playing nonstop. And so I think just consuming as much good information as you possibly can, and then weeding out what you maybe disagree with or maybe what you would put your own spin on is good. And so I think just having as many voices as you possibly can, whether you're an old coach or a young coach, you're still learning different things, and you're not going to agree with everything. Even if you have a mentor, there's still going to be things that you're going to want to do your own way, or things that you see differently. And so really just consuming as much as in concepts about not only coaching but leadership and just how to live a highly successful.
I think that's great. I think that's great. I'm sure that you've gone from not very many outside calls talking about how you do it to probably a lot more calls coming in, kind of wanting to pick your brain and find out how you turned the program around. Are you seeing a lot more of other coaches kind of reaching out and wanting to pick your brain?
Yeah, it's been kind of staggering, to be honest with you. I mean, like I said, when I first got here as a coach, it was like, we get on the field in Florida, and basically other teams were, barely warming up because they knew that they were just going to smoke us. And to now, where it's kind of come full circle, being national ranked, all those sort of things. It has been kind of amazing to see just, the tight-knit community that coaching is, just gotten from, coaches that I had in high school, or coaches that, coach at the college level that I played against when I was a player. It's been very cool just kind of seeing the scope of the college coaching landscape.
What I like to see about it, Brooks, is your personality isn't one that you would say, all right, this guy was hard-nosed, came at it, this is how he turned the program around. You're very low-key, very happy, very just always living in the moment. I mean, is that kind of your personality? Yeah. Is it, or is that just because you're winning?
No, I think it's my personality. I think guys at practice would probably say, a different thing. I think, you can be very hard-nosed and very tough, and hey, we're going to hold guys to an incredibly high standard, while also being positive and putting a smile on your face. I think so many coaches that I've been around, it's like, I'm a young dude. I'm a full-time college baseball coach. I mean, I literally couldn't be living, if you told me 5 years ago, hey, this is what's going to be your life. I mean, you couldn't have drawn up a better scenario for me. And so I think realizing that, just being grateful for that every single day, but then also realizing, hey, there is a process to it. When we get into practice, we can smile and have fun, but if we're not doing things the right way, and we're not the hardest working guys out there, now we're going to have a problem. And so I think it's definitely a balance.
No, I think that's great, and I appreciate. I could pinch you, right? You're living the dream.
Yeah. I'll wake up one of these days.
I think that's fantastic, and a couple things that I got out of this, and I really encourage people to take advantage of what Coach Brooks is talking about. He said that not very many people are reaching out, right? Take ownership of your own recruiting process. There's a ton of talent out there, but that doesn't mean that you as a player can't pick up the phone, text a coach, email the coach, send those highlights out. Coaches, successful coaches are looking for players that are wanting to play. And I think that, that there's a lot of great tidbits of information that came out of this interview, Brooks. I really appreciate you being open and kind of sharing some of the successes and the things that you've gone through. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today.
No, I appreciate the time. Like I said, I love the platform and very grateful to be a small part of it.
Well, we're trying. One of the things that we think that is important is the promotion of these really good programs. We started this whole journey on our side is exposure and access, exposure, and good information. And I think that one of the things that you can always find the top end stuff, right? It's easy to find the top D1 guys. Everybody listens to Corbin. Everybody understands the philosophies and the processes. But you know what? There's a lot of knowledge that comes from these winning schools and winning atmospheres all across the country. And I think that that's, to me, my goal is to shine a light on baseball in general. And Coach, you're the epitome of what I thought and what I believed was out there, and I really appreciate I appreciate your kind words. I appreciate the opportunity to get to know you, and really excited to see this whole thing continue. 3, 4, 5 years down the road. The nice things I talked to Coach Penn State Du Bois. He won 3 out of 4. At the World Series level, where he's at, and that started with 1, and it just continues, right? And it doesn't get easier, but once you got that process down, it's going to be fun to watch you guys. So I appreciate it again. Thank you very much, Coach.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.